posterity. I'm sure that our thousands of loyal viewers will expect us to be on our best behavior. It is 9 o'clock. Got a lot of folks not signed in yet, so I'll give it another minute or two. Morning, Bill.
Good morning, Jim. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Patty, do we have a quorum? I bet we do now.
The person signed in as AB, is that Andy Benrud? Okay.
Oh, this is Sergeant Bell from State Patrol.
Morning,
Got it.
Sergeant. I am going to call the meeting to order. We've got a number of people that are not present yet, but I'm guessing that several of them will be able to join us during the meeting. And when that happens, we will add them to the roll. Patty, I'm assuming that you can get the roll from the people who are signed in?
I can.
Great, thank you. Then I will call this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Dunn County Traffic Safety and Emergency Medical Services Committee on Friday, December 18th. We will rely on Patty to call the roll. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That should be plenty of enough for a quorum. So the next order of business is to approve the minutes of September 18th meeting. You should have gotten those in your packet. And before I entertain a motion to approve those minutes, I would like to draw your attention to item number 5K, which is in the committee reports. Dunn County Board of Representatives, it says no one present. Both Kelly McCullough and myself are members of the board, and we were present. So I would request that simply say nothing to present.
I will change that.
Thank you, Patty.
Yep.
Entertain a motion to approve. Kelly McCullough moves. Bill Yank seconds. Is there any other discussion on the amended minutes?
I just have one thing to add. I'm not sure, as we were discussing before the meeting, what exactly the Dunn County member representation there is there. I know Jim and I are chair and vice chair because of our respective chairs within the county board, but I'm not sure if we are also supposed to have an additional member. So we're going to try and look into that.
Thank you, Kelly. Some of the, yeah, I'll leave it at that. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the September 18th, 2020 meeting. Any other discussion, additions, corrections, changes, complaints, congratulations, anything to add? Seeing none. And for those people who are signed in where I don't see you on video, you'll have to speak up. But seeing and hearing no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, folks. Public comment, Patty, I don't see any members of the public here. Do we have any?
No.
Okay, no members of the public, then we will get right to item 5 on the agenda, which is committee reports. And we will start with Chad.
Right,
There he is. From sunny Hawaii, Chad is going to tell us whatever they need us to know. Go ahead, Chad, I'm sorry.
we got our 2020 construction all wrapped up. Mother Nature cooperated for us, especially out on the Knapp Hill. We were pretty happy about that. As far as, I'll just kind of briefly mention what we got on the docket for next year, and I'll cover more in the March meeting. But in 2021, we're looking at, we have some finishing work to do on the Knapp Hill job, removing the barrier and some finishing work. We're planning on having that done by Memorial Day, so it should be pretty low impact out there. We got the Highway 85 Rock Creek Bridge replacement that got bid here, I believe, in November, and it's been awarded, so that project's going to go through. We got a resurfacing project on 170, which is just about the entire length of Dunn County from Highway 128 to County D. So, and then in that project, we're going to reconstruct the 79 and 170 intersection and the railroad crossing. And part of that will be installing traffic signals to the city or the village of Boyceville. So that'll be a big to-do. Then we got a couple local program projects, one on County W, the Popple Creek Bridge replacement, and then a project in the town of Wilson on 705th Street, a Pine Creek Bridge replacement. I didn't really have any traffic issues to discuss, but I see in Rick's presentation, he's got some areas highlighted for high crash probability. And I just want to bring up area 1. I'm sure Rick will talk more about this when we get there on his end of it. But in area 1, we know that the Pine and Broadway intersection, Highway 25 and 12 in Menominee is one of our highest crash locations in the region, actually. And we're going to be pursuing a highway safety improvement program project to make some changes there as far as signal modifications and realigning the left turn bays on Highway 25 so that they're more head-to-head, because right now they kind of got a negative offset, so it's hard to see around any stopped vehicles trying to turn left. So we're going to make some pretty substantial improvements there. And then we're also looking at putting a median on Highway 12 to discourage or to restrict those through movements from the traffic coming from the mall driveway heading across to Walgreens and vice versa. So you won't be able to make some of those turning movements there, but we've got a lot of crashes there because of that driveway, those driveway locations. Otherwise, that's about all I got. Anybody have any questions?
Chad, when did you
Chad, I
say
just
that
have one.
project was scheduled to start?
Which one?
The last one, the one on 12 at the intersection of Pine and
We're
Broadway.
gonna we'll submit an application for that in March. And then once we get approved, we're looking at either late in the year in 2024 or it would be 2025.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I heard somebody else.
Chad, oh, sorry. On your projects, what was after the County W bridge replacement? I think it was somewhere in that.
Town of Wilson, 705th Street.
Thank you.
Pine Creek Bridge.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Chad, I was just going to note that Highway 25 project, the S curves down there by Abbott Acres seem to turn out real well, with rating that roadway. We'll see when the snow starts blowing what happens, but it looks good.
Yeah, good.
Anything else for Chad? Thank you, Chad. Next up, Rick, and Rick sent a preview of his presentation yesterday. If you got a chance to look at it, go ahead, Rick.
Okay, we'll start with the year-to-date county numbers. If you look at them, you can see the fatals are up, but every other number is down. from last year. And actually down significantly. The only one that's up a little bit is the 65 plus drivers. The number of crashes are down, but 2 of them involve fatalities, so that brings it up a little bit. But overall, the numbers are down significantly from last year. And even the speed-related crashes are almost half, which is a little different than what I'm seeing in a lot of the other counties that I have. Statewide numbers, 574 fatalities that have been reported compared to 527 at the same time last year. So we are way over last year's. I think you remember about 6 months ago, we were way behind last year's, or much lower than last year's day-to-day average. And I think a lot of that, we're assuming vehicle miles traveled is down. They won't have those numbers till sometime next year, but our numbers are up significantly, and we've already surpassed the total fatalities last year, which was 551. Looking at the county fatalities, you can see the locations of them. They're pretty much spread out throughout the county. Not all the interstate or high travel, majority of them are, but that's not unusual. And then I just, for the crashes during this quarter, I just take a look to see if we have some issues in a specific area that need to be looked at. So I take a look at the specific area and just do a 5-year crash history. The first one is the one on September 17th at 12 and Q, it says. As you can see, the mapping might be off just a little bit, but doesn't look like there's for a 5-year period, doesn't look like there's a huge number of crashes in that specific area. Again, looking at the next one, October 20th, there's 2 crashes in that area over the past 5 years. One being a fatality, total of 2 people injured in those 2 crashes. The next one, I think, is just a little bit skewed by the number of vehicles. October 22nd in Menominee on 12th and 19th Street. There's a total of 53 crashes in that area, 1 fatality, 18 injuries. But as you can see, the majority of them are property damage crashes. And somewhat looking at this crash report, it didn't look like any highway factors or other vehicles were prevalent in that. The next one from October 24th, again, 2 crashes, 1 being a fatality, not a high crash history. And then what we do is take a look at, on community maps, you can go to the analysis area. It'll pull up, excuse me, it'll pull up usually the top 5, but there's some parameters. So if they don't meet the minimum parameters, they don't show up. So for the county, there's a total of 4. And as Chad mentioned, analysis area number 1 is the highest area, and that's an area that's known. What we kind of take a look at is what are the factors. And in analysis area 1, right in Menominee, speed seems to be the biggest factor, 3 out of 13. The second one, kind of surprised that we would see, and this is what are we going to see for the next 90 days? Somewhat meant so that law enforcement and public works and stuff can take a look at, based on past the past 3 years, where do we predict to see a crash in the next 90 days? I was kind of surprised that analysis area 2 showed 3 bike crashes. I honestly don't know that area, but I was kind of surprised to see that there were 3 bike and 3 pedestrian crashes. The third area looks like senior drivers, 5 out of 9 crashes. And then area 4, 3 of the 9 are, one of the drivers is 65 or older. Kind of gives you an idea where maybe extra patrols should be. or where they maybe should take a look at and see if there's something unique in those areas that might be causing this. We're hoping to add in a factor such as highway factors, so we can maybe put in snow or ice to see if maybe that can help with some of the salting, sanding, plowing operations. And then the next one, the next page is, the first one takes into just overall where the crashes are. This one here looks at just factors that law enforcement and media things can influence, such as speed, distracted driving, alcohol, drug, and safety equipment. And this showed up 3 areas. You look at area 1 in the lower right, 6 of 10 of those crashes were distracted driving, 4 not wearing a seatbelt. Now, this would be an area where if you're going to do extra patrol, one of the things you could look for is distracted and seatbelt, because that's one of the major factors that came out of the crash data. If you look at area 2, it looks like of the 10, 7 of them were speed related, most likely too fast for conditions. And then the same thing with number 3. 7 of the 9 crashes speed related, which most likely, given that the next 3 months we should have some snow, most likely those are too fast for conditions. Next page just talks about the grants, and Dunn County was targeted for the speed grant for next summer. I believe those are June, July, August, and sometimes into September, depending on funding and things like that. The next one is the mapping, which we harped on from the beginning, trying to get counties and agencies to map all of their crash reports. And as you can see so far this year, only 6 crash reports are not mapped. That's phenomenal. I have very few that can say that they have 90% or 99%, I should say, mapped. 6 crashes, and none of them were fatalities, and I don't believe any of them were A injuries, which are 2 of the things we really look at. We'd like 100%, but only missing 6 out of over 500 crash reports, that's pretty good. The updates to community maps I just threw in there because more of a review for people that maybe don't remember some of the changes. There are no legislative updates. And then the mobilizations, we have Drive Sober coming up, which law enforcement should have gotten their law enforcement action kits for that. One of the things that is being discussed, in fact, it starts today, but quite often law enforcement and the sheriff will put something out there on whether it's Facebook or some kind of a PIO. What we're asking is, could other agencies get involved in that? Whether it's sharing a message that the law enforcement puts out, or, for instance, could the school district put something out promoting Drive Sober, or when it gets to Click It or Ticket or any of those, could the school district add that to their website, or could they add it to their Facebook page? One of the things you'll notice, and I have 1,000 followers on Facebook, but if I post something, and only because I used to work there, I know, but Fond du Lac Sheriff, if they happen to take it and they share it, well, now I'm probably at 21,000 or 22,000 people. And then if somebody within that group shares it, how many followers does the sheriff have on Facebook, or does the school district have? Even the clinic, how many followers does Mayo have? If you share it, we're now going from the, maybe the 1,000 people that I have to 100,000+ people, even outside of your district, because we don't care where the message goes as long as it goes. So there's something to think about. If anybody's looking for specialized data, we'd be getting more and more requests for this. The Kenosha Highway Commissioner wanted some numbers for his annual report, and he doesn't have anybody in his office that can do some of the things he needed, so you just send a request here and they can give you some data. So if there's something you need, just shoot them an email, tell them what you're looking for. If you're not sure how to explain what you're looking for, just ask them to give you a phone call. Community Maps provides a lot of information, but if it's on the crash report, they can pull the data. I can't necessarily do that. I mean, I think I have access to some of it, and Chad probably has access to a lot of it, but they have some, I don't remember what the software they have, but they can look into it. One of the requests was, how many motorcycle crashes do we have where they're wearing leather but not a helmet? Well, I know it's in there, but I don't know how I would ever get that. So they can get you a lot of information, and it doesn't cost anything. We have 5 analysts kind of waiting for some work. So, and other than that, just our contact information. And if there's any questions, get a hold of me either by email or give me a phone call. We'll get you the data you need.
Rick, I have a question regarding the 5-year crash history on 10/22. That talked about, that's on Highway 12, kind of on the east end of town. And
Right.
I think there's some plans to make that a 2-lane. Is that the story? There's going to be a 2-lane rather than currently it's 4 lanes. Will that have an impact on the crash data? I mean, what has that been considered? I guess since that's a higher area, has that been considered?
I can chime in on that.
That's a Chad answer.
So what we're doing is a road diet to address a lot of those left turning and rear end crashes because of people turning into the businesses and the side streets. So we'll put in a center turn lane so that we can get those turning vehicles out of traffic, and then the through traffic can continue through. So usually with road diets like this, we get we're looking around a 30% crash reduction.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Chad, I actually have a follow-up question on that. I walk a lot in that neighborhood, and crossing Stout Road anywhere between about 11th Street and 18th is problematic. On 12th Street, there's a pedestrian crosswalk with some flashing lights. And I was crossing there the other day, and actually it was a few weeks ago. There were 2 or 3 cars going from the east to the west. They were heading west. They were in the right-hand lane, and the lead car stopped to let me cross. And as I was crossing the street, a car behind him pulled around him to pass and near ran me down. I don't know what more you could do on that, but with the new turn lanes, how far to the west will those extend on Stout Road?
We're starting basically at 6th, and we're going all the way out to 21st.
Holy smokes. Okay.
So
That should make it-
yeah, that whole corridor will be changed, and then we're putting in, I don't have the intersections nailed down for sure, but I think I think at 13th and near 17th, we're going to put in 2 crosswalks with the flashing beacons.
Mhm.
So that should help too. And of course, going down to 1 lane in each direction, should limit, that should get rid of a lot of those people that are trying to go around when somebody's stopping for, those crosswalks.
That should make a big difference. Thank you.
Yep.
Back to Rick. Any other questions for Rick?
Just a comment more than anything, Rick. The analysis area 2 that you mentioned is my ward, and just so you have a sense of what might be some of that issue, the south end of that analysis area 2 in Menominee is where the freshman dorms are across from the Quick Trip. So there's a lot of student crossing there, and a lot of it not at the crosswalk. And then the north end is where bicyclists who are on the Red Cedar Trail come up and into Menominee to go to the bars and cafes. That's why you might expect to see the bicycle crashes there.
Okay.
Anything else for Rick? Patty, I see your sign lit up. Did you have a question?
I do not.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Moving right along, I've got Mike next on the railroad, but I don't see Mike around anywhere. Any railroad representatives that would like to toot their horns? No? Then we'll move to Scott Mcroberts, Highway Safety Coordinator. Scott, take it away.
All right, I'll go over our crash info from September 11th through the 2nd of December. The Sheriff's Office handled 74 total crashes, 6 deer crashes. A couple of those were squad deer crashes. We've had a few of those happening. 20 multi-vehicle crashes, 54 single vehicle crashes, 19 crashes with injuries, and 22 persons injured out of those crashes. Getting into the fatals that Rick talked about. On September 17th, 11:54 a.m., 24-year-old female driver, only occupant of the vehicle, which was a 93 Chevy truck, was northbound on County Q approaching US 12 in the village of Knapp. You're coming down the hill, basically from the interstate into Knapp. Didn't stop at the stop sign, crossed US 12 and struck a tree. The driver was seat belted. Her brakes had failed. We actually got in, looked at those brakes once we impounded the vehicle. There was wearing right through the rotors into the cooling ventilation in the middle of the rotors. And word was the purchase of that vehicle had taken place the previous spring and the brakes were bad then. So this was a condition that was just gonna happen at some point. And it was a bad spot to be coming down that County Q hill, you know, with the condition of those brakes. But that driver died several days later due to her injuries. No alcohol on board. There was meth on board on that one. No roadway issues as we looked at that. Just basically brake failure. Moving on to October 20th, 2:03 p.m. 27-year-old female southbound on Highway 25, the only occupant of the vehicle again, was negotiating the curve south of State Highway 170 in the village of Wheeler in a 2007 Chrysler Sebring. Snow on the road. We had that October snow, and she lost control, traveled across into the northbound lane and was struck in the passenger side by a utility type truck. And she was pronounced dead on scene. The driver was belted on that one. No alcohol on board. The full toxicology is not yet back on that. The driver of the other vehicle just had suspected minor injuries noted on the crash report. On that one, again, I didn't see any issues with roadway factors, just failed to maintain control due to speed and weather conditions. And then a couple days later, October 24th, 6 p.m., 87-year-old male was northbound in a 2007 Subaru Forester on County M, southeast of Colfax. He is northbound north of 760th Avenue. Driver was attempting to negotiate a curve. Due to his speed, traveled onto the right shoulder, steered back to the roadway, overcorrected to the right again, and rolled the vehicle right onto the roadway and then into the ditch. The driver was not belted. He was not ejected, but he was pronounced dead at the scene also. No alcohol involved. Full tox is not yet back on that one. So those are the crashes. I guess anybody have any, and again, on that one, we did not see any roadway issues. Again, it's just more driver error and speed. Moving on, we will be participating as of today with the Drive Sober or Get Over campaign, and that will be through January 1st. As Rick noted, we've been awarded the grant again for the speed grant next summer, and we did accept that. It's been a very good grant because we can involve the villages as well with that. I'll reach out to the city again to see if they want to participate. They have not in the past grants that I've taken care of, but I think it'd be good to get them on board if we can. That's all I have.
Thank you, Scott. Questions for Scott?
Scott, this is Rick. Do you know anything about the one that happened in Menominee on the 22nd of October?
I didn't bring that one into my information. I didn't deal with that one.
Well, the only reason I ask is that it shows the vehicle damaged, but towed not due to disabling damage. So it doesn't sound like there was a lot of damage. And it talks about the vehicle striking a couple of posts.
Yeah, I could look into that and report back next time if we want.
I'm just wondering if, and I don't know who your medical examiner is, but this looks like one that may not have been death due to the crash, and that's the only thing I'm asking is, it might be a medical issue, even though she was only 50. Just reading the narrative, it's like, not that you can't at a low speed, but it doesn't necessarily look, clear cut. So if you get a chance, appreciate it.
I'll take a look at that.
What I know of
Thank
that particular case, I know that case, it was a cardiac event. She died of a cardiac event and then struck the pole.
Do you know if they ruled the cause of death?
Well, she was in a coma for a while. She was unresponsive on scene, taken to Eau Claire, and was on ventilators and whatnot for a few days before they took off life support.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Anything more for Scott?
Say, Jim, just one thing. They mentioned the drive sober December 18th to January 1st. This is for Rick or Scott. From a school district point of view, and if I put that out to the Dunn County schools, I see there's a page 14 on Rick's presentation. Should we just use the icon from that, or what exactly would you like us to share? Just the dates and that icon, or is there other guidance?
We've got it out on our Facebook page. If you could grab it there. Or I could email my PR on that to you.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just email you, Bill.
Thanks.
Kind of a follow-up question, Scott, is that on the Dunn County webpage too, or just on the Sheriff Department webpage?
I don't know if it did make it to the Dunn County. I'll check on that. And,
Okay. As I was going to say, that the Dunn County Facebook page gets a fair amount of attention, so.
Yep.
If it's not on there, it probably ought to be.
Sure.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, then who's up next? John Swarsky, Highway Department. Morning, John.
Morning, everybody.
I think you're muted, though.
Guys, now.
There, you're good.
You just cut out again.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Oh.
Yes.
Oh, okay. We finished up our county construction here about a month ago. Everything wrapped up well. Mother Nature definitely cooperated with us to get all the projects wrapped up and tidied up. Equipment is back in the yard and in storage. We have our salt sand pile out here staring us down, which for once, I'm glad we're having a nice warm brown fall, early winter. Definitely going to help us out on our winter maintenance budget for a change versus going the other way. And I keep kidding the guys, if we have to go get a big sheet of plastic to cover it up in spring, I'm willing to cover up a sand pile for once and take it into next fall. The guys have been out doing some brushing here, opening up intersections, try to get some of these shaded areas where we have icing problems just because it doesn't get that sun in the winter months. So a little bit of brushing with a lot of equipment brushing, not a lot of hand brushing going on yet. Things have been going really good. We've only had, that I know of, is one plowable event, and that was the one in October. Otherwise, it's just kind of been salt sand and salt missions here, 2 or 3 other occasions here when we've had these little skiffs come through. So judging by the 10-day forecast, it looks like we're going to carry through and probably have a brown Christmas and be brown into the new year for a change. as Chad covered here, we got the two bridges, the Popple Creek Bridge and then Town of Wilson Bridge there over Pine Creek going next summer. We're continuing the engineering on the two segments of B, the one south of the interstate ramps to 1229, and then the one north of the ramps to through Packard Drive and to the north. So the first section to the south is scheduled for construction in 2022. The second leg to the north should be ready to go in 2023. Otherwise, it's just basically our regular maintenance and trying to improve in any way that we can with signage, pavement marking, keep up on the pavement maintenance. So that's pretty much all that I have for this time around.
Questions for John? Anything? Don't see any. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Kelly, got anything from Highway Committee?
The only thing I might add to John's report is the recent action by the county board to extend the ATV UTV season, which will hopefully allow it. We're trying to bring all of the county's ATV UTV ordinances into alignment, so it'll be much easier to enforce. It might result in a little bit more ATV UTV traffic, but hopefully the added enforcement will make that not an issue. And John, if you want to add anything to that, you're
I'm good.
Thanks, Kelly. Rick Hollister, Menominee Police Department. I don't see anybody from Menominee Police here today. Somebody want to speak for them? Hearing none, we will go to Sergeant Bell. I believe you're up next.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. To start off, between October 1st and the first half of this month, State Patrol's either handled or assisted with 165 property damage crashes, 20 injury crashes, 23 crashes where injuries happened at the time, as well as 104 animal crashes. And I believe there's a few bear in there, or turkey we had this year so far as well. I think that should be it when it comes to that. We're also participating in the Drive Sober campaign starting not this weekend, but we'll have people out starting next week. And then we'll have saturation with extra troopers on the road that New Year's Eve date. In regards to weights in some of the county roads, Dunn County itself, we're down some troopers, not troopers, inspectors. One of our mobile inspectors did promote, so he's been off, and another one has been off on some leave through since I want to say Thanksgiving. He's not coming back till the beginning of January. So if anybody's seeing any increase in overweight trucks on the roads where at this time with the weight's a little bit down, let us know. We can try to get somebody from a different county to come up and kind of patrol those areas with our mobile inspectors. As for predictive analytics, with the maps that Rick put out, we've been having troopers work some hot spots, and with the maps he's put out, we'll start in January. We'll kind of have guys out specifically in those areas. Other than that, our coverage for the first part of the year in that afternoon travel time will be down a little bit. We do have a trooper that's deploying with the Naval Reserve, and another one who's going to be a training officer at the academy. We have a recruit class starting in February. So in those afternoon hours, we may be down a little bit, but with some scheduling, I'll try to get as many troopers to work some of those afternoon hours as possible. Other than that, that's all I have.
Questions? Anything for Sergeant Bell? Seeing none. Thank you, Sergeant Bell. We will proceed to, we've got DNR next. I don't think there's anybody here from the DNR. Anybody speaking for DNR? Don't see any. We'll move along then to Bill, school administrators.
All right, good morning, everyone. Not a lot to report. Just want to first compliment John Swarsky for keeping the roads really clear for the schools all fall so far. You're doing an outstanding job, and we'd sure like to see a few more months of that. So we'll even help you cover that pile of sand and soil with a tarp if you need help. So in the spring. Up to this point, Colfax and Elk Mound, we remain open, in-person learning. We offer online as an option to our families, but we're all fighting the COVID pandemic up to this point. I'm working a lot with KT. She's doing a great job supporting us, even through all of the conflicting information through our higher level governmental bodies. We're still, I think we're going to make it to Christmas anyway. We got 2 days next week and we're here today. So that's what I have. Does anyone have questions for me?
Don't see any, Bill. Nice short report. That's always good news.
Thank you.
I didn't mean it that way. Ryan, anything from the community?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Perfect. What we've seen lately is on Highway 25 north and south with the school buses, we have cars continually go through our red lights. We had one this morning, about 750 between 850th Avenue, north of the Seasons Harvest out there, and 850th, that new cut across road they just put in. Car went through the reds there. We did install 2 dash cams on 2 of our buses that are on those highways to try to get more license plate numbers. It's hard to get the plate number when they're going 55, 60 miles an hour. And, you're watching the kid because, obviously the safety of the kid is more important than getting the plate number of the car. So that's been an issue. I mean, it happens a couple times a week. We try to get the reports over to either the sheriff's department or the city of Menominee, police department, depending on where it occurred. So we've been doing that. Weather's been good, like Bill said, which has been very nice. I haven't had to call him at 4 or 5 in the morning to ask him about the road conditions, so that helps out. The other thing I have, exit 45, that intersection there by the train tracks, I think it's like 629 to like Badger Avenue. We have to stop, obviously, and turn our flashers on, open the door, check both ways, and make sure there's no trains coming. When you're heading north, it's kind of a pain there because the semis are coming out of Senex there and you got to stop. So it gets a little dicey there. That's kind of a bad intersection for us, I guess. I think probably a lot of other accidents possibly happen around there, but that's about the only thing I see there. Other than that, I don't have much else. If anybody has any questions.
I'd like to follow up a little bit on, if I had to guess, I would have said that cars driving past a flashing red light on a school bus happens almost never. And you're saying it a couple of times a week?
Oh, at least, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That really surprises me. And I don't understand. Is it a lack of education on the part of the drivers? Is it pure carelessness? Is it,
I guess, I don't know. I mean, when they taught driver's ed, obviously, well, I've been in the school bus industry my whole life, but stop. And then I know a couple years ago, we in Wisconsin was the last state, we used to have 2 red lights, but now we have the flashing yellows, and then it turns to red when you stop and the stop arm comes out. So I don't know if that's a little confusing for people, but it's like a daily occurrence, probably at least one, especially on the highways like 25, 29, people just aren't paying attention or whatever. Most of those we don't have, the students crossing the road if we can help it. So, right at their drive, which helps a lot. But it's definitely very unsafe. And the sheriff's department's been great with us. When we send a report over, they follow up with it and everything. And it's their discretion to give them a ticket or not. But we had a few people, they've called us and, they say, I screwed up, and it's like, okay, at least they understood what they did, so that helps out too.
Yeah. Well, when you think of the consequences, it's kind of mind-boggling to me. It's really distressing. If I were a parent that had a kid on a school bus, this would Well, anyway, this might be something that we want to take up with the legislature. I don't know if there's legislation specifically to address either education or and increased penalties probably is not the answer because that's generally not a motivating factor. But wow, I'm just kind of astounded. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate your insights. Anything else for Ryan? Well, I'm still kind of astounded by that. If there's nothing else on the committee reports, let's get to the medical emergency reports, starting with Jenny from Red Cross. Jenny, I see you're on a line here.
Yes, good morning, everybody.
You're very soft, though we can barely hear you, or I can.
Is that better?
I'll turn up my volume. Go ahead, Jenny.
All right, I'll try to speak up. Yes, good morning, everybody. Just for the Red Cross, just again, a reminder that we are continuing with our remote or virtual responses if we do get notified of any residential fires and individuals need assistance from us. So we anticipate to be in that remote response until we have the clear on the COVID. So that's going to go on throughout this winter season, which unfortunately tends to be where we get the majority of our residential fire calls. So with that, we need a little bit more support with our first responder partners in getting information. So we need information on how to get a hold of those individuals remotely. So just a reminder, and our fire departments, law enforcement, and the dispatch centers have been very helpful with that. So just want to remind that we will continue with that. So that's my report.
Thank you, Jenny. Any questions for Red Cross? Thank you. First responders next. Any first responders in the crowd that would like to speak? Do not see any. Moving along, Mary from Red Cedar Medical Center, Mayo.
Good morning. Thank you. We've obviously busy with COVID, but we had our peak number of employees out November 13th at 313 employees throughout the Northwest Wisconsin region. Today we're under 100, so we've taken a nice steady decline since that time. We also peaked at 102 inpatients in our Northwest Wisconsin region, and today we're at 44 inpatients. So also another really nice number. Our testing numbers are also declining. We do between 60 and 150 each day here in Menominee. We've now added the flu and strep test to that testing location here in Menominee. Vaccines obviously came in on Tuesday, and we have our employees, we have about 425 employees scheduled already. They just got an email notice on Wednesday, and so we have about 225 employees already scheduled between now and the first of the year. So that's great. That's a huge plus for us. It's a sign of hope. And yet we didn't really see that spike in COVID over the deer hunting and Thanksgiving, or that after that, those issues. I'm afraid that people are going to let their guard down a little bit over the holidays, over the Christmas holidays. And so I'm really hoping that doesn't happen and we don't see another spike. But we clearly are not out of the woods yet, but we are cautiously optimistic. I know there's lots of myths out there about the vaccine, and if people go to mayoclinic.org, there's lots of information and videos on the safety of the vaccine and the effectiveness of the vaccine. So encourage people to check that out. And as soon as you can get vaccinated, please do. The vaccines are available for employee or healthcare workers today. But I'm hopeful that as we continue to get doses, that we'll be able to extend that to immunocompromised folks and the general public in time. So the other thing I guess I just wanted to share is Steve Lindbergh, who has been our Vice Chair of Administration here at Red Cedar for, gosh, I'm not sure how many years, probably 30, 31 years. He is retiring. His last day is January 4th, and we're not replacing that exact position. We're replacing an operations administrator, but at this point in time, I will be the campus administrator for our Menominee or Red Cedar location. So I've kind of been doing much of that work anyway. So it's not really I wouldn't say it's a promotion. I'm just going to continue to do what I've been doing. So, but we wish Steve well. He's going to do a little bit of traveling and going someplace warm, I think, for a part of the winter, and certainly well-deserved. And he's been a great partner and mentor for me. So if you see him, please give him a congratulations and wish him well. I think that's it for me. Any questions?
Questions? Do not see any. Thank you, Mary, and congratulations on your additional workload. I've been in those. Public health, I don't see Katie Gallagher. Melissa Gillenbach is up next. Melissa gets the title of disasters.
Good morning. Good morning. I know I love that. Some days it feels like it is, even though we really haven't had any technical disasters. Just we've been working a lot with the COVID situation and trying to help with PPE and testing facilities here in Dunn County with the public health office. Other than that, through the emergency management office, we've had the normal day-to-day activities, which do include some, fuel spills and things like that, which we don't necessarily consider a disaster, but it's definitely a hazmat thing that we do work with. But other than that, we're happy that, to echo what John said, we're happy for the brown fall and into winter. That does help us too with different things. And other than that, we just have those few little hazmat spills that we've dealt with, nothing major, and just helping out with the COVID situation.
Anything for Melissa? Questions? Don't see any. Thank you, Melissa. Scott, you're up again on highway traffic.
And nothing overall to report. We've just had some issues in the jail with COVID. We're quite restricted on even bringing people in. So we're doing a lot of bonds on the street or calling the judge, catch and release kind of stuff on nonviolent type stuff. So otherwise, we've worked through a few different exposures with our personnel, but we've been able to staff. So things are moving forward pretty well.
That's another one of those good short reports, means good news. What do we have left here? I got to go back to my agenda. Fire department, EMS. Denny Klaus here. Is there anybody here that would like to speak for the fire department? Won't see any. And UW Extension, I don't see Katie Wontok. I'm guessing she would report that most of the harvesting vehicles are off the roads. I drive around in the countryside. Boy, most of the corn's gone this year, isn't it? Good dry fall. I imagine the farmers kind of enjoyed that. Save a little bit on propane, and get the crops in as well. Brings us to the end of our agenda. I have no items to put before the committee. Our next meeting date is set for March 19th in the year 2021. I think most people will be happy to see that number change. And with that, I want to thank Krista for the tech support for setting up the meeting, and John and Patty for doing the legwork and the inviting and hosting, and all of you for your participation. I hope everybody has a good, safe holiday season. Have a Merry Christmas. Thanks to all of you. And this is Jim Tripp, the chair of the Traffic Safety Committee, adjourning the meeting. Have a nice holiday, everyone.